last time, and we are on block. We are on block 2, and we are presently doing unit 6. We've completed block 1 with 4 units. Then we had moved on to block 2, in which we discussed unit 5, and today we'll be my attempt is would be to at least cover around 3 units, that is unit 6, unit 7, and unit 8. But I'll go at a speed which is come with all of you are comfortable. Uh, so let me start my screen share. Just a minute. Yeah. Can you see the screen? Can you see unit 6?
Not yet, ma'am.
Okay.
It is coming. Yeah, now it is visible. Thank you.
Good, perfect. Okay, so now Unit 6 deals with rural housing, electrification, and energy. Going on a recap of what we were doing, we were discussing the various rural development programs in India, where the first unit was mainly based on poverty alleviation through employment generation or wage generation programs. And we had a detailed discussion about the various programs and policies that are being run by the government to ensure that people who are living in rural areas, particularly those living below poverty line, they are provided and given an opportunity of either starting their own enterprise, which we call as self-employment, or they get some kind of an employment which is termed as wage employment. So this is what we did in block 1. Now we moved on to other programs and policies of uh, uh, we've moved on to other programs and policies, and just let me check the um, just a minute. Hmm. Yeah. So these this block 2 deals with basic services and infrastructure development programs. You remember last in our last class, one of the topic that we did was education, that is universal literacy and elementary education. These are all a part of block 2 of basic services and infrastructure. This block has all in all around 4 units. One we've already discussed, which was related to universal literacy and elementary education. Today we'll be discussing about rural housing, electrification and energy. I'll be discussing about the various programs and policies that has been initiated by the government for rural housing, for electricity supply, and energy resources and sources that are made available to the rural people through the efforts of the government. Next, we will be discussing about the supply of safe drinking water, sanitation, which in turn leads to an improved rural healthcare system in our uh, in our villages. Unit 8, I'm being very ambitious if I'm able to move on to Unit 8 and include it during this class. Unit 8 deals with the rural connectivity systems of the government, and how the rural India is efforts are being made for rural India to connect with the wider world, with the larger country. And this program will deal with the various connectivities and possibilities of improved connectivities that the government is trying to provide in rural areas. So, repeating again, we'll be talking about rural housing, electrification, and energy. We'll be talking about drinking water, sanitation, and health. And finally, we'll talk about rural connectivity. So, coming to rural housing, electrification, and energy, as you can see in this unit under the housing schemes, we have the two main housing schemes that we have and which have been discussed in detail in this unit are the Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana. Pradhan Mantri. Do you know what Pradhan Mantri means? Anybody?
Prime Minister.
Perfect. Prime Minister. So the Prime Minister, the Prime Minister Awas. Does anybody know what Awas means? Awas.
Yes, man. It means
Voice,
sound. So voice
voice.
sounds.
Awaz nahi. No, no, not voice, not awaz. It's
Uh,
not a z, it's an awaz, sir.
Awas. Oh,
Yes, yes, ma'am. As I think it will be the system of registration of gravames
Okay,
from
okay, okay,
the
okay, 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 okay.
land
It's not so
affected.
complicated. No, 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 no,
Yes,
no, no.
ma'am.
It's not so complicated. I was since we are pretty close to each other in our languages, so I keep on taking these small quizzes with you. Yeah, avas means a house, housing. Avas, house. Okay, a residence. Okay, so Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana, and Yojana means a program or a policy program. So this program deals with Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana, means Prime Minister Residence Housing Scheme. Pradhan Mantri Housing Scheme, and in the end it says Grameen. In the end it says Grameen, and for Grameen, by Grameen we mean just a minute. Yeah,
Ma'am,
and
sorry,
by Grameen we mean,
I have a suggestion. If we have English meaning beside of this Hindi expressions, that would be very useful because we don't know the meaning of these words and
okay.
expressions.
So you can see my screen,
Yeah, yeah.
right? So I will translate it for you. You can take a notebook and please keep on writing. Prime
Okay.
Minister, right?
Yeah, thanks.
Prime Minister. Pradhan means prime. Mantri means minister. Awas means housing. And Yojana would mean a scheme, where Grameen would mean rural. Can you see it?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, yeah, we can see.
Right, perfect. So now certain words cannot be translated. I'm sorry about that. But yes, these are some basic words where it would help you to understand the meaning of the program. Then we have another one is the Grameen Pradhan Mantri. Pradhan Mantri again would mean Prime Minister. Down. Next again is Prime Minister. Gramodaya Yojana. Yojana again would mean a scheme. Gramodaya would mean with some related to villages. Gramodaya would mean related to villages. So this is the Prime Minister Yojana, which is related to villages, and which aims at providing Gramin Awas. So these words are again being repeated. Gramin, as we have written earlier, is rural. Gramin, and Awas, as we have discussed earlier, is housing. So these two um, programs are mean the same in terms of their nomenclature, in terms of their name, but has different and separate features altogether. So these are the two main schemes of the government of rural housing. Then we have rural electrification. There are a number of schemes of rural electrification also, which is mentioned in this unit. And then we'll talk about the various sources of energy that are needed in the rural areas and that are being given and provided in the rural areas. So with this, let us begin with our first topic, that is of rural housing. So in India, we've had a lot of schemes that have been launched for rural housing. Way back in 1985 and 86, we had an Indira Awas Yojana. Again, you can see this word. This word was important for us to be. This word was important to be is important for you to be aware of. Awas would every time mean and housing. So Indira Housing Scheme. This is in Hindi. Indira Housing Scheme, 1985 to 86. Okay, so this scheme was launched in 1985 and 86 to provide houses to the rural poor, and the aim of this program was to to achieve the goal of housing for all. And Indra Awas Yojana was uh, Indra Awas Yojana was launched with this objective of providing houses for the needy, the rural needy who were living below poverty line. Now, I have highlighted the main points so that we can understand this whole policy in a paragraph or maybe in a sum of 5 to 7 minutes. But mainly, this scheme was launched and was implemented for the for providing houses to the rural people who were living below poverty line. And besides this scheme, there were a lot of other schemes also that was launched along with it, but most of them have merged into each other, and we are left with the National Mission for Rural Housing and Habitat uh, uh, got discontinued, and we were left with a lot of mixture and combination of the schemes later on. And eventually the Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana, Gramin Awas Yojana, was in fact, the Indra Awas Yojana got merged or replaced by the Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana Gramin, something that we were discussing earlier. Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana Gramin. So, Indra Awas Yojana was initially launched and got merged into the Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana Gramin, and this happened in 2016. Along with that, Pradhan Mantri Gramodaya Yojana, which we spoke about some minutes back, was also launched. This was in the year 2000 and 2001 to achieve the Sustainable Human Development Goals. By this time, the Sustainable Human Development Goals were declared, and we had to incorporate our development plans and goals in sync with the human development goals that were enlisted. And so this program got its origin. And presently we have both these programs that are running here with the name of Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana Gramin and Pradhan Mantri Gramoday Yojana Gramin Awas. So these are the two programs and policies that are being successfully implemented by our Indian government for rural housing to the people who are particularly living below poverty line or are the marginalized sections of our Indian society. Now, this is the program that I told you about, Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana Gramin. The objective was mainly to provide pakka houses. What do you mean by, any idea what are pakka and kacha houses? Do you have something like that there also?
Yeah, ma'am. Some people says Paksa in Afghanistan. Maybe this is
Okay.
same to the Indian Paka. So usually in Afghanistan rural areas, we build houses like Pascha, mud houses or vernacular houses made of soil and straws and wood, like this kind of, yeah.
Ma'am,
Okay.
may I say
Mr.
something?
Muhammad? Yes.
Yes, Pakka, I mean the house is made like from concrete, which are we use for that Pakka house, or Kacha, the houses which are made mud.
Yes, perfect answer. So, uh, even here we have two types of houses in rural areas. One which is made of mud and which is it's a temporary structure, and then there's the other ones which are made of concrete, which is a permanent structure. And these permanent structures and these concrete houses are called pakka houses, and the houses which are made of mud are called kacha houses. So kacha means, in Hindi, kacha means something which is raw, not ripe. Abhi paka nahi hai, not cooked. Kacha means something which is not cooked. So applying that to the houses, kacha means something which is not fully concrete and which is not solid in nature. It is kacha. So yes,
पक्का
that is also, yeah. हाँ सही है, बताएं.
पक्का मीन्स मजबूत मतलब
पक्का का देखिए बहुत सारे पर्यायवाची हो सकते हैं, बहुत सारा मतलब हो सकता है उसका,
यहाँ
लेकिन
पर
यहाँ पर पक्का का मतलब हो गया सीमेंट से बना हुआ, मतलब पत्थर और सीमेंट का बना हुआ, और कच्चा हो गया मिट्टी से या गोबर से लिपा हुआ, और ऊपर पुआल डालते हैं, छप्पर जो पड़ता है वो अ, अ, उसकी नहीं होती है, जो छत होती है वो पक्की छत नहीं होती है, कच्चा मकान होता है. आपके यहाँ पर कच्चे मकान कैसे होते हैं? What kind
म-
of what is the name? What do you call pakka? You said
it's same, madam. It's mud houses and as well made of
what are mud houses called? What are mud houses called at your side?
uh, uh,
Ma'am,
हाँ
may
मोहम्मद.
I, ma'am, for Kacha house we have khama, khana hai khana, khama in Dari we say, and Pashto we say also we use Kacha. That's something usable in Pashto.
Okay,
Or
nice.
khama is a word for Kacha, and for Paka we use concrete like concrete core. Khana hai pukhta. Paka mean pukhta, and for Kacha we use khama.
Okay, okay. So yes, quite close to how it is here. So yeah, so for all these years, and same must be the case there in Afghanistan also, that people lived in kacha houses. Pakka houses came into being much later, and given a choice or given an, I mean, the rural people did not have the kind of resources to make a pakka house for themselves. So that is when the government stepped in, and that is when the government decided to provide them with pakka houses, because kacha houses has their own dangers and has their own problems of weather withering. मौसम के साथ with season it degenerates, it weakens. So having a pakka house was giving pakka houses to these to the rural people was one of the mandates of this program, and that is why they decided to provide housing for all with pakka houses. So, as you can see, there are certain features. The key features to the scheme was to provide assistance for construction of houses in rural areas. Then there was an official amount, some official assistance that was provided to these to the people to build their own houses. There was a cost sharing of unit between the central and the state government. Here I will again like to ask you a question. See that last time we were discussing that you said that there is not too much from the government that is being done, but the UN and international INGOs are have pitched in and have come together to help in social development and socio-economic development of the country. So here what happens, I'll tell you how what happens here, and you can then give me some examples of what happens there at your end. Whichever schemes are being launched are mainly in partnership with the state and the central government, because no state has that kind of money to be able to run and implement a very large scheme, because that requires a lot of investments. It's not that the state government doesn't have it, but since there are a lot of subjects that are center subjects, so it becomes important for the central government to also be a part of the program that is being implemented at state level. You understand central and state? Do you understand the difference between the center and the state? If you don't know, I'll be willing to explain it to you. In simple words, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. In very simple words, that we have we have a very federal government system in our in India, where we have it is not important, it is not necessary that the government which has one at the center, and the center means that who would be running the whole country, the government who would be running the whole country, it is not important, it is not imperative, it is not compulsory that the same government is also at in the states of our country. So we have a number of states in India. We have Uttar Pradesh, Bihar, Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan, Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, West Bengal. You must have heard these names, Assam. So all these separate states have their own government. So there was a time in Uttar Pradesh that we had at the state government, at the state level, we had Samajwadi Party, and in the center we had BJP. So what happens that if supposedly if the state government and central government are same, presently the scene in Uttar Pradesh is exactly that we have BJP in the state also, and we have BJP at the center also. So under these circumstances, it's a very smooth flow, because whatever funds and whatever financial assistance is sought by the state government from the central government is provided in a very comfortable and easy way, because the government feels that it is our government at the state also, and whatever schemes and programs that will be implemented or that are being implemented will be the government would be given credit to it. Even if it is the state government that is getting the credit, the state central will automatically benefit from it, because they belong to the same government. Problems arise when the government at the state is different from the government at the center, because then there is a credit game that continues as to if the state government, which is not the one present at the state, is gets more mileage would land up winning again, causing the central government to again lose when they fight at the state level. So this is a bit of a problem at rural in the implementation of rural programs and policies. But again, things here are very have been functioning in a very smooth and democratic manner, and that is why most of the programs and policies have a center and state sharing. So if the state is putting in some the state puts in some amount of some percentage of investments, and the center also puts in some amount of investment. So in that context, here point 4, as you can see, point 4 talks about that how there is a sharing of the central and the state government in the ratio of 60 to 40. 60 to 40 in plain areas, that is flat areas, and 90 to 10 for northeast and 3 Himalayan states, Jammu Kashmir, Himachal Pradesh, and Uttarakhand, because these are very, they are not very economically rich states, and they need a lot of government intervention, a lot of government support for their socio-economic upliftment and development. So there are these schemes that there are these points that you can go through. They are very simple points. I've already gone through it. There's nothing very important. I just wanted to explain the center state percent ratio. That is something unique. Otherwise, it's very clearly given as to what are the major features of this Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana Gramin. So this yojana or this scheme targets at providing houses to the rural poor, and particularly the scheduled caste and the scheduled tribes of our country. I hope you remember last time I had a small discussion about what are the scheduled caste and what are the scheduled tribes. And if you missed that class, then you can do a Google search and find out what are the scheduled castes. They are actually the most backward section of Indian society, and that is why special attention, special needs, special care is being taken of them by the government. So this is Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana Gramin, and there are other things also which is related to it, but we've discussed it. All of this we've discussed, as a, for example, sharing of the scheme cost. All these things I've already discussed in a gist. All that we have discussed have been listed in detail over here. You can go through it. If there is any problem, you can ask me in our next class. The next program that I spoke about some time back was the Pradhan Mantri Gramodaya Yojana Gramin Awas. Pradhan Mantri stands for Prime Minister. Gramodaya is another related to a village. Yojana is a scheme. Gramin is rural, and Awas is housing. So this was a comprehensive scheme of the government of India, which was introduced in the year 2000 and 2001. As I told you that the Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana, the one that we were discussing earlier, did not have the components of the Sustainable Development Goals. So this Yojana included the just a second. Just a second. There's some people have come and they are shouting. Just give me a second. I'm so sorry. There were some people who were shouting outside and it was disturbing me and you, of course. So, yeah. Can you see my screen now? Is my
No,
screen
ma'am.
visible?
No, no.
It will be visible in some time.
Yes, yes, now it's visible.
It's visible, ma'am.
Good, good, good. Okay, so I'm repeating that we are basically mainly talking about two schemes of housing, two housing schemes of the government. One is the Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana PMAY, and the other one is PMGY, that is Pradhan Mantri Gramoday Yojana. One is PMAY and another one is PMGY. So we have already discussed about PMAY, that is Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana, and now we are talking and are in discussion of with about PMGY, that is Pradhan Mantri Gramoday Yojana. So the Pradhan Mantri PMAY, Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana, which was launched, did not incorporate the sustainable development goals because these goals came in later after the launch of the program. So, incorporating these goals and because one of these sustainable development goal was to provide to address the problem of rural shelter. So one of the sustainable development goal was to address the problem of rural shelter, that is providing shelter to the rural people, and keeping that in mind and incorporating the sustainable human development goals, the scheme was launched with the name of Pradhan Mantri Gramodaya Yojana, that is PMGY, in the year 2000-2001. Now we will be discussing about this PMGY. So the main objective of this PMGY was to reduce the shortage of houses to reduce the shortage of the houses for the families who were living below poverty line in rural areas, and which in turn would help in the healthy development of the villagers. You can go through the that how these beneficiaries were to be identified. It's not so important, but yeah, you can, for knowledge sake, you can definitely go through this. Another very interesting and important part of this PMGY was the protection of women's interest. For the first time, a scheme was launched which had housing support and housing uh, um, what would you say, housing support to the women, and the government that was giving the houses, that were providing the houses, the allotment of the houses was actually made in the name of the female member. This was something that was a large step towards women empowerment and their upliftment. Even if houses were given in the names of the male, they were the name of the wife was automatically included in it. So this the protection of women's right that was provided through this scheme was a very important aspect of this PMGY program. Now we come to rural electrification. Rural electrification programs in India mainly uh, mainly was taken up by the government to ensure that there is an electricity supply provided to energy is provided for all kind of subsistence and production activities, so that lack of electricity is not does not lead to low productivities in our rural areas. So electricity has been defined and classified as a basic amenity. Along with housing, drinking water, health, education, electricity is also something which the government takes very seriously and understands the need of electricity to reach to the urban poor people to the furthest of the section. So all the rural infrastructure program which pertain to these basic amenities have been brought under one program, that is the Pradhan Mantri Gramodaya Yojana (PMGY). Now, so if we look at the rural electrification schemes that are being implemented in the post-independent period, this is they are talking about since the time India has gained independence. There are quite a few of them, but we will not go as back as 1988, like the Kutir Jyoti program, which was launched in 1988 and 89. Then there was the Basic Minimum Service Program, which was launched in 1996. We had the Minimum Needs Program. This is comparatively a new program, a minimum needs program, which targeted at 65% rural electrification, and they gave 100% loans for this electrification. However, this scheme was discontinued in 2004 and 5. That is why I'm saying that all these schemes that are discussed here, you may definitely know about it, learn about it, but a lot of them have discontinued. Discontinued doesn't mean that they were not successful, but by discontinued means they've been merged together by, or maybe they've given a new form with new inclusions. They've been given a new name, and as I was saying, that ultimately Pradhan Mantri Gramodaya Yojana (PMGY) includes all of these. Earlier, we spoke the Pradhan Mantri Gramodaya Yojana. We spoke also has these provisions of housing, and rest electrification is also a part of it. Then we have the accelerated rural electrification program, and this was launched in 2002, and we provide subsidies, and there are subsidies provided for covering electricity and in unidentified villages. Then we have the Rural Electricity Supply Technology Mission, which is known as REST. This is comparatively very new, and this was initiated in September 2002 with the objective of electrification of all villages and households by the year 2012 through local renewable energy sources. Next program that we have is the Rajiv Gandhi Gramin Vidyutikaran Yojana. Okay, now I think you should write down. Rajiv Gandhi is a name, as you all know. Means, Gramin I've told you, means rural. means rural. Vidyuttikaran. Vidyuttikaran. Vidyut means electricity. And Vidyuttikaran means elect electrification. Nobody is going to ask you for these translations, but I'm doing that so that it's easy for you to. And a yojana means scheme. Yojana means a scheme. So we have Rajiv Gandhi Rural Electrification Scheme. Rajiv Gandhi Rural Electrification Scheme, known as Rajiv Gandhi Gramin Vidyuttikaran Yojana. So this is the latest national rural electrification scheme that was launched by the Ministry of Power in 2001, and the plan was instated in 2005. It has these objectives in mind, which had with these objectives. You can go through these objectives. It's not very complicated. Then we have another scheme, that is Deen Dayal Upadhyay. Deen Dayal Upadhyay is also name of a person. Deen Dayal Upadhyay is a name of a person, like Indira was a name of a person. Then we have Rajiv Gandhi, which was a name of a person. Now we have Deen Dayal Upadhyay. Gram means village. Gram means village. Jyoti is another form. Jyoti means light. So here they've used the word light in place of electrification. So we have Deen Dayal Upadhyay Village Light Yojana means scheme. So Deen Dayal Upadhyay is the name of a person. So Deen Dayal Upadhyay Village Light Scheme. That's not how it is called. It is only for your understanding. It's otherwise Deen Dayal Gram Jyoti Yojana, which was launched in the year 2015. Now, this the earlier scheme that we were talking about, that is the Rajiv Gandhi, the one just before this, the Rajiv Gandhi Gramin Vidyuttikaran Yojana, as I told, was consumed in this Deen Dayal Upadhyay Gram Jyoti Yojana. So this became a part of the Rajiv Gandhi Gramin Vidyuttikaran Yojana became a part of the Deen Dayal Gram Udyan Yojana. Okay, now it's becoming too monotonous. Let me ask you a question. What are the various sources of energy that are there, which are being used in Afghanistan? If you categorize them into, if you put them into categories, what would be the categories of energy resources? Yes, Mr. Hayatullah.
Ma'am, there are the electricity generated from water, renewable energy from solar and wind turbines.
Okay, so one is renewable. One is renewable. Next, another.
Energy generated from dams, water dams.
Okay, energy is generated from water tanks, which you call renewable energy. Anyone else? More to it? Huh, Mr. Zamir?
Thank you, sir. Energy is generated from renewable and non-renewable sources. And there is a
Very
one
nice.
instance I have been also working. I have experience in renewable energy working. And we have also hydropower energy, wind energy, solar energy, and so on.
Very nice. So see, last time also we were discussing that all of you who have experience of various rural development programs. Last time we had a person who's worked in the health sector. We had a person who had worked in the education sector. Today we have someone who's worked in the energy sector. Mr. Zamir has worked in the energy sector. So, Mr. Zamir, when you're making your dissertation, when you'll be preparing your dissertation, my advice and suggestion would be that make a comparative study between the renewable energy sources being used in rural India and those renewable energy or non-renewable energy resources that are being used in Afghanistan, in your country. Make a comparative study. It would be an interesting one to do, because then you will be able to understand our schemes much better, and along with that you will be able to also envisage the best practices, your best practices which we can adopt, and our best practices which may be of some use to you also. So that would be a very
Okay, sir.
dynamic aspect. It would be a very dynamic aspect of dissertation, right? So here we're
Okay,
talking
sir.
about
Right.
good. So here we are talking about two types of energy resources, that is the renewable and the non-renewable energy resources. Under the renewable resources, we can say that biomass energy, solar energy, tidal energy, wind energy, hydropower energy, as what Mr. Zamir just told us. And in the non-renewable energy, what are the non-renewable energy resources? Anybody? What are the non-renewable energy resources? Anybody? Yes. Mr. Zamir has been already given a chance to speak. So we have
This is cool energy, cool.
coal energy, or yes, Mr.
And also
Nusratullah.
oil generator energy is also non-renewable energy.
Okay, one by one. Mr. Niyamatullah.
Yes, non-renewable energy like fuel energy, fossils, coals, and others.
Okay. Anyone else? Nusratullah ji. Mr. Khurami. Mr. Khurami.
Okay, by your permission, generally we have two kinds of energy resources in Afghanistan, which are renewable and non-renewable energy. And there was a different organization like JERAS, which was working in Afghanistan in the field of renewable and non-renewable energy in Afghanistan. Non-renewable energy are such as using of oil, gas, wood, charcoal, and etc. And renewable energy are generated from hydro power, wind power, and solar system power.
Okay, very nice. Good. So here again, just a minute. There's something that is occurred. इसे बंद करो. इसे close this. Close this. नहीं हो गया हाँ okay फिर so here again we can see that even here we have various non-renewable energy as we discussed, and the various renewable energies that we discussed and the non-renewable energies such as coal, petroleum, natural gas, which are basically fossil fuels and they take million of years to be formed, and that is why they are depleting very fast and they are in shortage. So rural area now tell me that if we compare rural and urban areas, which kind of is energy demand more in urban areas or in rural areas? The demand for energy would be more in urban areas or would be more in rural areas? Mr. Mia Abdullah.
Actually, urban areas need much more energy than rural areas because there are many fire energy than rural area. Rural areas need just for lighting or some other basic needs for energy.
Very true. Yes, very nice. Yes, perfect. So there is a much larger demand of energy in urban areas and rural areas. There is a less of a demand, and also the demand can easily be fulfilled, and that demand can also be fulfilled by the renewable energy resources. So the best part is that the demands of the rural electricity demands of rural people is easily met the by the renewable resources of energy. Now we have policies and programs for energy access in rural areas. You can go through all these programs and policies, and they are very simple. In a gist, I have told you that they are mainly related to renewable and non-renewable energy supply to urban areas. With this, our unit 6 is over. It is 6:15 right now. Take a 10 minutes break, or maybe take a 10 minutes break. Go through it, and I'll meet you in 10 minutes, and we'll continue with our lecture. Okay, so we will now come to unit 7, which is about which is drinking water, sanitation, and rural health care. Now, India has launched a number of programs to provide safe water supply, to the rural people. And some of these programs have been given in detail, have been discussed in detail under this section. The first program is the Accelerated Rural Water Supply Program. This program was launched in 1972 and 73, and the focus was to provide drinking facilities to the rural people. Later on, this program got merged with what got merged into the minimum needs program during the in the year 1974 and 75, and later on it was reintroduced as this was later on reintroduced in 1977 and 78. Further on, this program was again merged with another program which is known as the Rajiv Gandhi National Drinking Water Mission. Now, this mission was much broader in its aspect than the ARWSP. ARWSP stands for Accelerated Rural Water Supply Program, ARWSP. So ARWSP was finally merged into the Rajiv Gandhi National Drinking Water Mission, which was known as RGNDWM in 1991. Now this mission there were two programs under this mission, which was the Accelerated Rural Water Supply Program and the Sector Reform Programs. Now you can go through this program uh, on the internet if you want it in detail. Otherwise, it's just about enough for you to know this much. Then we had the Swajal program, which also was related to providing water supply to drinking water supply in rural areas. And initially, this program was launched in three states that is Uttar Pradesh, Gujarat, and Karnataka. The objective of this program was mainly, of course, was to provide water supply, healthy drinking water for health and hygiene benefits. And of course, it would also result in promoting sanitary awareness and many other things that are related to safe drinking water. Then we have about drinking water policy of India. The drinking water supply is the sole responsibility of the state government. But with the passing of some constitutional amendments, that is the 73rd and 74th, the state further on gave this responsibility to the grassroots officials, government officials, which is known as the Panchayati Raj system, that is Panchayati Raj institutions and the urban local bodies. So if we look at the federal system of our Indian society, we have a government at the center. Then we have the state government, which is for the entire state. And then we have local bodies, one for the urban areas and another for rural areas. And these bodies are are elected by the people, by the population. So these urban bodies and these rural bodies, the officials, the representatives are chosen by the masses. So the body that is present at the urban level is known as the urban local bodies, and those at the rural level is known as the Panchayati Raj institutions. I will highlight it for you. We have the Panchayati Raj institutions and the Panchayati Raj institutions, the PRIs, and the urban local bodies. Now, the drinking water supply policy of India talks about there is a national water policy which was adopted in 1987, and there were the features of this policy has been listed and written over here. Then we have the National Water Mission. Earlier was a National Water Policy. Under the National Water Policy, we had certain points. Then we also have the National Water Mission. The mission was to take up the provisions of the National Water Policy and develop a framework to optimize water use by increasing water efficiency by 20%. Then we have the Jal Jeevan Mission. Here I will translate this for you. Jal means, anybody? Jal means water. Jeevan means life. And mission means mission. This is anyways an English word. So Jal Jeevan Mission means water life mission. And then they have listed out the objectives of this mission. They've discussed about the various components of this mission. I've gone through it. They are all related to safe drinking water and how it can lead to a healthy, hygienic life, to how it can provide a healthy and hygienic life to people. Then the next section is the sanitation in rural India, the various sanitation facilities, priorities of the government in providing sanitation facilities, and if we look at the points that are given there are certain reasons. The reasons have been given for the ineffective implementation of the programs despite the huge expenditures that were being incurred by the government. All the programs and sanitation facilities that were being provided at the rural level were failing. And the main reason behind their failing was mainly that there was a very low priority given to sanitation by the state government and people at large. Sanitation has never been just a minute. You are trying to stand on a rack with your weight. You will fall with the rack. Okay. So please use your brain. Issues को दे दो जो चाहिए. I'm so sorry. I'm in a class. What is your weight? A 47 weighted boy was trying to get onto a cupboard that is hung on a wall, and he was probably trying to commit suicide. Yeah. Okay, so then we have this. So all these programs, all the missions that were being launched for sanitation were a failure, because we all understand that in India there were much more important things that were to be taken care of than sanitation. Sanitation is something that comes totally at the end. I mean, you are the best to understand this with the present situation in Afghanistan. If someone here, we are trying to fight for our life, and if someone says don't throw a polythene on the floor, you'll say there are much more important things in life to do right now than think about not throwing polythenes, or think about taking a bath, or think about drinking safe water where we are in a situation that probably water is not supplied. Forget about safe water. So India, as what even Afghanistan has gone through those times and is still in that turmoil, sanitation was never a priority for Indians. It was later on realized that sanitation needs to be given a special attention. But since it was always on a low priority, all the programs that were being launched for sanitations were a failure. People were not even aware. There was just no awareness about sanitation. There was no program. There were no advertisements. There were no awareness campaigns. There were no programs that were being launched for sanitation, and it's important. So all these things led to the failure of the sanitation programs. There was no motivation amongst the sanitation workers. There was a very poor disposal system. There were no water points. They were creating unhygienic conditions and habits. People were unwilling to pay for the cost of sewerage. There was open defecation. People did not want to spend money in trying for toilets. They would go in the fields. There was utter unhygienic life that people were leading, and there was no the government was trying its best, but since they did not take the help of the NGOs and the private players. That is also one of the main reasons that sanitation and all programs related to sanitation were a failure. That is why the total sanitation campaign was launched, and it was launched to address the needs of the household in particular. And total sanitation campaign was a flagship program which did reach was a very successful program, and it led to a lot of changes in the mindset of the people and of the infrastructure and physical environment around us. Then we had the Swachh Bharat mission. This was quite recently launched in 2014 with the purpose of achieving universal sanitation coverage and focus on safe sanitation. So now the Swachh Bharat Abhiyan for both for rural areas, the Swachh Bharat Abhiyan is mainly launched at two levels. It has been divided into two subsections, which has been mentioned here. So it talks about two subsections. One is the Swachh Bharat, the Swachh Bharat Abhiyan in rural area, in urban areas, in Gramin. Gramin, I told you, means rural and urban. And next was otherwise was the Swachh Bharat Abhiyan in the urban areas. Both of them were aimed towards trying to reach a, a healthy, sanitized society. So the objective was to bring about improvement in the general quality of life, both in the rural areas, of people living in rural areas and in urban areas, and also they were they were promoting to stop open defecation. One of the major problems it was in our country was about open defecation. So you can go through these objectives of Swachh Bharat Abhiyan. This is a very important Abhiyan. Please go through it. Then and it's interesting. You will come to know a lot about this. Mainly here the focus, as I was saying, was to inculcate healthy habits, healthy habits amongst the rural people. And one of the most important thing was ODF, that is open defecation free society. So here I will highlight this point, this section. This section is, I'm highlighting it. It's an important section where we talk of where it says that in rural areas, by clean India, we mean improvement in the levels of. Oh, by clean India, we mean improvement in the levels of. Uh, Listen, by clean India, we mean improvement in the levels of cleanliness through solid and liquid waste management. There is a major need for solid and liquid waste management. Then activities aimed at making our villages open defecation free, clean and sanitized. So this campaign, this mission was mainly Swachh Bharat Abhiyan was launched with this objective, and it's a program that is still going on and it's doing really well. So Swachh Bharat Abhiyan is an abhiyan which has received acclaim and has have received a lot of appreciation their uh, for their features. So with all these, there was an improvement in health and hygiene conditions in India. Now we come to the rural health in India. Rural health and health issues have always been an issue in our country because because of poverty, lack of awareness, non-availability of proper medical facilities, poor sanitation, improper disposal of waste. All these things have time and again led to various diseases coming to rural people succumbing to these diseases, and a lot needed to be done to improve this condition. So, what the government ultimately did, that the government of India initiated many healthcare programs in rural areas, and they created healthcare centers at three levels. Actually, at two levels. There were primary health centers and there were community health centers. Primary health centers were at each village level, and then at the larger level, there were in a cluster of some villages, there were community health care centers. So these sub centers aimed at providing maternal and child health, family welfare, nutrition, immunization, diarrhea control, control of all kind of diseases. So the doctor were made available almost at the doorstep of each village house. There were, as I told you, that these sub centers were divided into primary health centers and community health centers. And the objectives of these health centers, whether it is whether it is a primary health center or the community health center, was to make healthcare services available to the rural people at their doorstep, and also to ensure that there is not overcrowding of in district hospitals, since these primary health centers were present in their village vicinities, so people would need not go travel all the way to the districts to for regular health checkups and healthcare needs. Now, then we have the National Rural Health Mission, NRHM. This is a mission which again is really appreciated and has been going on in our country for quite some time. And NRHM is a flagship program which incorporates a lot of things in it, and has the objectives which are listed here. That is to decrease the child and maternal mortality rate. We had a highly increased mortality rate of both child and maternal of a child and mother. So the objective of this mission is to decrease this rate. Then also to develop an accessibility to services like food and nutrition, sanitation and hygiene. Also provide public health services, especially for women and children. Prevention of communicable and non-communicable diseases, integration of all comprehensive primary health care facilities that are there. This mission NRHM aims at integrating all these services and make the people aware of what is a healthy lifestyle. So NRHM is a very, I'm going back, National Rural Health Mission NRHM, which was launched in the year 12th of in the year 2005 on 12th April, has been a very good program till date, doing wonders. Then we have other programs, that is Janani Suraksha Yojana, National Health Policy of 2000, 2002 and 2017. Then we have this Ayushman Bharat. Ayushman Bharat is also an interesting program. It is a flagship program of the Government of India, which was launched under the National Health Policy of 2007 to achieve universal health coverage. This project was planned to achieve the Sustainable Development Goal of the goal that no one should be left behind. And it is mainly what it does, it provides comprehensive health care by giving free medicines and free diagnostic services. Now this is a big boon to the rural people, and even actually I'll say that to all the needy who cannot afford the expensive medicines and expensive diagnostic services. The government provides free medicine and free diagnostic services under this Ayushman Bharat. In fact, illnesses like cancers is also taken care of under this uh, um, Bharat mission. In this Ayushman Bharat mission, one just needs to have an Ayushman card. They just need to prove to the government that they are below poverty line. There are certain other mandatory obligations, but a card is made, and once an Aadhaar Ayushman card is made, you can avail the government services free of cost. Then we have the healthcare in rural areas. It's an assessment, and that is it. I think, as I told you, I was being very ambitious in saying that I'll be able to cover 3 units. But with this, we've covered unit 6 and 7. Next unit, I'll very briefly go through it so that we don't have to come back to it. And this is mainly, just a minute. You can, if you want to ask something, please go ahead by the time I open this other. Agar, if you want to ask something, please go ahead.
No, ma'am, no question.
Okay. So, can you see my screen now?
Yes, ma'am.
So this is a very small unit. It doesn't talk. It doesn't have too much to discuss, but it mainly talks about the various the rural connectivity in India and how the rural India has been connected with the larger country either through the transport or through telecommunication. So they have spoke about rural community from two point of views. One is through transport and another one is through telecommunication. So we have the Pradhan Mantri Gram Sadak Yojana. Pradhan Mantri, again, means the Prime Minister. Gram means village, as you must have learned by now. Yojana is, of course, a scheme, and Sadak means a road. So we have this whole connectivity of roads that have been made, uh, that have been constructed in the villages, that are being constructed in each village, that are being constructed. Then there are these village roads. Then we have the state highways. Then we have the national highways. That is how the villages are connected to the main road, and the main roads are then connected to the national highways. So all these comes under the Pradhan Mantri Gram Sadak Yojana. And you can understand that roads and building roads is like a network of wires. It's like you are spreading and crawling in every direction. So that's how expansive this project is. This is how expansive, not expensive. Expansive matlab very broad, making each and every village connected to the road is a big task. It's a very ambitious task, but it has been beautifully achieved by Indian government. And regarding telecommunication, all are aware that telecommunication has reached its pinnacle. It's reaching its pinnacle, and in fact, there is no pinnacle. It has really transformed the face of the world. So, India is not left untouched. And if India is not left untouched, then definitely our rural areas are also have majorly benefited from the telecommunication revolutions that have happened in our in it's worldwide, basically, not just in India but worldwide. So we have the broadcast sector and we have the telecom sector, which have played vital roles in bringing about rural community to connect in through telecommunication with the larger country. No, here I will say the larger world. So this is all about rural connectivity, and it's mainly our systems of transport and our systems of communication, telecommunication. Go through them. If in case there is any problem that you face, I'll be willing to discuss and share it. Just keep that page number that you face the problem so that we can directly go to that page and discuss it in detail. So with this, I will close today's lecture. I hope um, I hope it was interesting, and I will, in a gist, if I say, today we mainly spoke about three things. We spoke about uh, we spoke about rural connectivity. We spoke about the healthcare programs, and initially we spoke about the safe drinking water in India. The various schemes that are being run for the benefit of rural people, under which initially the first, unit 6 we discussed was the rural housing, electrification and energy, how different housing schemes have been put in place to provide for a shelter to the rural people, and how various electrification programs and energy resources are being utilized and optimized so that they reach our rural people. Then we spoke in detail, discussed in detail about drinking water under Unit 7, sanitation programs, and our rural healthcare system in India. And lastly, we discussed about how rural connectivity is ensured either through the transport system and both through the transport system and through telecommunication. With this, I will end my class. If there is anything that you want to ask, please feel free, and session is open. Yes, Mr. Muhammad Wali.
Hello, ma'am. I had a question. Wanted to ask you. Actually, when I went through the our learning material, I was studying poverty in India, and there were some statistics given. When I noticed that when I was reading, I noticed one thing that the poverty, which was reducing like in percentage from the 1980s, suddenly in after 1993-94, there was a huge reduction. But when I saw the 2011 and 12, there was an increase in poverty. Then I searched a little more, and I saw that the increase was mostly happened in the year of 2004 and 5. I wanted to know the real reason for that, that what happened, that the poverty again increased in that year. But I couldn't find it. If you could help me with that.
See, talking about every year poverty dynamics, at times, sometimes they increase, sometimes they decrease. So coming to
Actually,
our
ma'am, sorry to interrupt again. Actually, ma'am, the poverty, it's not only about the 1 year or two. Like if we see the overall poverty ratio and the year 1993 and 1994, it was 21.7. I'm talking about the rural area. But in 2011 and 12, it again became to 25. Like there was a huge increase, uh, despite the fact that there was always a reduction. And when I saw the statistic, I don't know what happened in
Can you do
specific in
one
the year
thing,
of.
Mr. Wali? Do me a favor.
Yes, ma'am.
Share the statistics with me on WhatsApp, on my email or my WhatsApp. You have my
Surely, ma'am.
WhatsApp.
It's given in the learning material, and it's the
Yes,
unit
please
one, table
share
one.
the,
I will share
yes,
it
please share it.
for
I
sure.
will go through it, and we'll have a discussion regarding it in detail.
For
It's a
sure.
very interesting observation, but as of now, I would not want to give you an answer to that. I would first want to get my facts collected and corrected, and I will let you know.
Okay, ma'am. If you could please write me your WhatsApp number.
It's in
I
the
will.
group. It's in the group.
Okay. Okay. I don't have it. I will ask someone. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay. Okay. Anybody else? Fine. So then I'll close the class for today, and we'll meet again on next Friday. If you have any questions, you can WhatsApp me. You can put it in the group, and I'll take it on from there. And because while you're going through the study material, you will have a lot many observations, a lot many questions will come to your mind, as what Mr. Muhammad Wali also had one in his. So we'll discuss these programs, we'll discuss these problems, and it's always better that you send the questions to me earlier so that I am also well prepared with your questions, and it's not a random answer that I give to you. Okay, thank you for the hearts and thank you for the claps. It's always encouraging to get encouragement from learners like you. It's always encouraging to get appreciation from learners like you. So, fine, good night, and we'll meet again on next Friday.
Good night, ma'am. Good night, ma'am. See you.
Good night.